CELASA Brownback series. I'm Roberto Barea, together with Lois Lorenzen, co-directors of CELASA, which is the Center for Latino Studies in the Americas. We have an ongoing series of events, but these Brownback lunch conversations happen a number of times throughout the semester. It allows for a bit more informal, more personal, a bit more intimate connection with our guests, who are usually members of our faculty presenting on their research. And so we have a bit of that today, but with a very special edition, because Susan Katz, whom I'm sure you all know, who is, we're proud to say, a CELASA associate faculty, has presented on her work, and we've been following with a lot of interest the work that Susan has been doing in Ecuador, and particularly in the context of bilingual education. But as we all know, that becomes a door to open up into knowing what the community's issues are, and it's a special treat for us to have with us la señora Chumpi, Cornelia Chumpi, from the Shuar community in Ecuador, y le pido desde ya disculpas por todo el chorro en inglés. Solamente para decirle entonces a Susan y a usted bienvenidas a la universidad, a este espacio de CELASA, y le paso el micrófono invisible a Susan.
Okay.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por venir. Thank you so much for coming. It's really a pleasure to share all this with people I know from many different parts of my life in USF. And it's a special, incredible treat to have Cornelia here in the United States for the first time. And she came here to present at the American Educational Research Association conference with me, where we had 12 minutes. So I'm just so happy to have this space. And when I was saying there that when I wrote the proposal to present, I never would have dreamed that she actually would have been here. So it's really, really, really special. At this point, the title of our talk, and we're going to do this together bilingually. We're going to experiment with different ways of doing it bilingually, so I hope it works. Please give me feedback later. It's Recuperando la Dignidad Humana, Recovering Human Dignity. Shuar mothers speak out on intercultural bilingual education. And this is a very special picture, because on the right is Cornelia's mother, Doña Beatriz, in the center Cornelia, and on the left, Cornelia's daughter, Yanua. This is 3 generations of Shuar women doing the cope with the yuca, and they're going to be preparing the chicha. But on that note, I'm going to turn this over to Cornelia.
Antes de empezar este evento, para mí es un honor estar aquí con ustedes, pero más allá de eso, yo quisiera empezar este evento, esta charla, haciendo honor a una persona que lo admiro y lo respeto mucho. Yo sé que para los Shuar no existe la muerte, la espiritualidad sigue viva, y yo sé que Steven Rubinstein estaría muy contento, muy orgulloso de estar aquí. Por favor, si nos ponemos de pie y le brindamos honor un minuto hacia esta persona.
If everybody could stand up, we're going to begin with a moment of silence to honor a very close friend who's really responsible for both of us being here today, who is Steven Rubinstein, and I'll mention a little bit about him later, but sadly he passed away a little over a year ago at the age of 49. A moment of silence, please.
El kakarnekas yamay, hutzawantim, arutam kakarmarije, itza kakarmarije, ubinzu kakarmarije, nikaska tuna kakarmarije, visha Ecuador kanam kutuku arini teshnum, Shuar no asan, yamay atumin, tishir warasan, mashi konkatirmi nikas, Antur tukutirmin tishir warasan amik mahrumitahay. Quiero desearles a ustedes muchas gracias por permitirme estar aquí con ustedes y quiero decirles que con el poder de las cascadas sagradas y de los seres supremos del universo, de nuestras deidades, Etza Arutam y Ubintzut, desde mi país, el Ecuador, la selva de la Amazonía, cantón fronterizo Taisha. Y en nombre de la mujer Shuar, quiero desearles a cada uno de ustedes y al mundo entero mi saludo fraterno. Gracias por permitirme escuchar la voz de una mujer valiente y luchadora. A la vez también agradecer a una mujer, a una amiga y compañera, Susan Katz, una persona que ha tenido ese interés de querer compartir sus conocimientos, principios y sobre todo valores para apoyar una propuesta educativa para el fortalecimiento, la reivindicación para los pueblos, las nacionalidades del mundo y específicamente para nosotros la nacionalidad Shuar. Muchas gracias.
Cornelia began with greeting you in Shuar, her native language. She also speaks Achuar, Quichua, and Spanish. And what it says here, just to translate briefly, I'm not going to do every word, but with the power of the sacred waterfalls, which are very integral to Shuar culture, and the supreme beings of the universe, of our deities, Etza, Arutam, and Winsu, from my country of Ecuador, from the jungle of the Amazon and the canton of Taisha, where she's from, and in the name of the Shuar woman, I want to thank each of you and give you, for the whole world, a greeting, a cordial greeting, and thank you for letting me express my voice as a strong and fighting woman. And then she mentions that she wants to thank me for being her friend, for being a woman, for being a comrade, because of my interest in Shuar culture. So we always say in my Department of International Multicultural Education that we always need to situate ourselves in why we're doing this work. So to begin with, giving you a very, very, very brief background, because this is not about me, but it's important. But that originally, as many of you know, my work a long time ago focused on Latino immigrant youth in the United States. And then when we had a visiting scholar, a Roma scholar from Bulgaria here a long time ago actually, and I heard him speak about the experiences of Roma youth in Eastern Europe, I was so struck by the parallels of with the experiences with Latino youth in the United States, and I started looking at marginalization of youth in a more global perspective. And what happened and actually I owe Roberto, I owe you credit, because it was you that sent me that email. Stephen Rubenstein, the anthropologist who had lived with the Shuar for many years, had done a lot of research, and in a very respectful way, in kind of a model way of critical anthropology, he felt a deep sense of wanting to give back to the Shuar, and he felt he wanted to do that through finding someone who was an educator who would go and look at bilingual intercultural education among the Shuar. And he sent that email to thousands of people, apparently. I mean, people circulated it, and I was the only one that answered. And it was one of those synchronous, there's another word for it, fortuitous kind of situations where at the time I was thinking about applying for a Fulbright, and I wanted to go to South America, and things weren't coming through, and then this just fell into my lap a month before the application was due. And so I thought, wow, bilingual intercultural education, which was somewhat my background, and then he really mentored me through the process of applying, submitting the proposal, and then connected me to Cornelia, and connected me to other people who were really central for my work. So that's why we owe so much, and I think it means so much for both of us, because kind of, if he knew that Cornelia was here presenting on this work in this context and we were doing this, he would just, it just feels very right. So, as I mentioned, the first people I met was Cornelia and Raquel Antun, who at the time was working in Shuar bilingual education in the whole directorate in January 2010. So I first heard in 2008, it takes a long time to do the Fulbright process. And then in spring 2010, I did 4 months of research at the Instituto Superior Pedagógico, Intercultural, Bilingual, Shuar y Achuar, basically. exactly, in Bomboiza, which is in the southern, I'll show you a map, but that's the community that Cornelia grew up in and the community where her parents live. And doing that project, I interviewed teachers, students. I focused on the students in the first year of teacher training, and I interviewed administrators. But what I did not do formally was interview parents. And after reflecting on the project, I felt there were two big flaws. One was that I never got the parents' perspective, even though I had informal conversations. And the other is that, as clearly an outsider, non-Shuar speak, a tremendous number of limitations in terms of my ability to do the research. So I wanted to pair up with a Shuar woman, particularly to interview Shuar mothers, and Cornelia at the time was doing work for her own thesis at the Salesian University in Quito on Shuar families in Quito. And because of our friendship and because of the commonality of our work, we decided to do a joint project, which I must give credit to the U.S. Jesuit Foundation for funding. And so we did this research in 2011. So just a little background. Ecuador is about 25 to 40% indigenous. I have more information here I want to look at. It is, there are 80,000 Shuar in the Oriente. The Oriente is basically what we call the Amazon area, and it's the part on the eastern side. And so Morona, Santiago, if you can see that dark green province, is where we did this research. And in that province, now the majority is Shuar, and the leaders of that province are Shuar, including Cornelia's husband is the mayor of the town Taisha in Morona, Santiago. And the Shuar are known for many things, and primarily that the Shuar were never militarily defeated, not by the Spanish or the Incas. However, they were colonized, and particularly in terms of schooling, by the Salesian missionaries in the late 19th century. But the Shuar are also famous for having started the Shuar Federation way back in 1964, which is the first indigenous organization in all of Latin America. So they're really pioneers. They're also pioneers in terms of bilingual education, in that Serbish is the system of bilingual radiophonic network where they educated, and Cornelia participated in this, where they had a radio network where they were teaching young kids in Shuar language and then gradually transitioning into Spanish. And it was that model that became the basis for the education reform law in 1994 that established bilingual intercultural education throughout the country. And it set up 200 primary schools, 40 high schools, and 5 teacher training institutes. The Instituto de Expedicia that I was doing work in was one of those 5. However, what's really interesting is that 3 out of those 5 are called Fisco Misional, which means it's partly run by the state and partly run by the missions. And that's really important. I went in the beginning, I was so excited to be in a bilingual environment. I didn't look initially very critically at the influence of the Salesians and how they were controlling things. In any case, be careful what I say just now. The other part is that the Shuar have been really instrumental in influencing the Constitution in 2008, where Shuar is one of 3 official languages, Shuar, Quechua, and Spanish. And also that in 2008, partly because, not partly, largely because of the work of the indigenous movement, that Ecuador is declared a plurinational state, so made up of many different nationalities. So I'm going to give you a little overview of the research, and then we'll go on to talking about the study which Cornelia will do. So what a lot of the recent scholars looking at intercultural bilingual education are saying, there's not much intercultural and there's not much bilingual about it at this point. So if you look more deeply, in that the indigenous languages in the schools are not valued as much as Spanish, that there's been a rapid loss of the native language for all the nationality groups in Quechua, there are many different languages spoken in Ecuador, and a lot of those in the bilingual schools that are supposed to be indigenous language and Spanish, it's been a rapid loss of the language, of the native language. For Shuar, in one study in schools, Shuar bilingual schools, the use of the mother tongue has dropped 60% in just one generation. And in a UNESCO study, they said that many Shuar teachers can't use Shuar in the classroom. Sometimes it's because of their own lack of proficiency, and sometimes it's because of the lack of proficiency of the kids, and so they resort mostly to Spanish. So there's been a real shift, and I think it was in the 80s and 90s, it was really strong, like, and you can see parallels in this country, and then now it's become much more Spanish dominant. That the other thing that people have looked at more critically is that the whole concept of interculturalism is not mutual, it's not equal, that it's not Spanish speakers learning Shuar or Quechua, it's Shuar speakers learning Spanish, so it's really kind of one-sided. And this is the point that we wanted to look at, is a study saying that Shuar parents are rejecting intercultural bilingual education in favor of, they call it Hispano schools, which are mestizo schools where Spanish is dominant. And there are a lot of reasons for this, but what we wanted to look at is, do Shuar mothers in this case want their children to be schooled in the Shuar language? And that's what we wanted to study. This is the Instituto picture, that the school that was the basis of my original research, and also the school of the children of the mothers that we looked at. And the Instituto is it's K-12 plus 3 years of teacher training. There are 300 students, 30 teachers, about half of whom are Shuar, although that's gone down a little bit the last couple of years. When I was there, the head of the school was Shuar, and I think throughout history, the person has always been Shuar. The head of the school was actually Cornelia's uncle when I was there, but the last 2 years, the head of the school is a Salesian priest who came from another part of the country and had no experience in Shuar territory. This is one of the 5 teacher training institutes that I mentioned before. It's connected to a mission. Okay, y ahora, now Cornelia is going to talk about our study. So the English is here.
Bueno, ha sido importante realizar este trabajo de investigación. Primero, lo que nosotros hemos querido es un poco que conozcan los antecedentes, quiénes somos los Shuar, dónde vivimos, cuál ha sido nuestra trayectoria organizativa, política, y sobre todo un poco enfocar el tema de educación, las investigaciones que se han venido realizando desde otros autores, desde otras instancias.
What I just mentioned was to give a little background of the history of the Shuar, history of Ecuador, and a little background in terms of what the scholars have said about intercultural bilingual education that leads to the basis of our study.
Entonces, uno de los trabajos muy fundamentales, sobre todo en Ecuador, para los pueblos y para las nacionalidades, es de que se hagan investigaciones reales desde nuestras propias vivencias, desde nosotros y para nosotros, con el objetivo fundamental, sobre todo, para mantener el tema de la identidad, el fortalecimiento y la reivindicación.
But what she's saying is that what's so important in research that counteracts much of the research that's been done is that the research be done in a real way about real lives, real daily lives, and from Shuar for Shuar, with the purpose of preserving and maintaining the and strengthening the identity and the reclamation of language and culture. And if I'm missing anything, please add.
Entonces es allí cuando yo personalmente tuve el acercamiento con Susan. Yo a Susan la primera sugerencia que le había pedido es que Susan venga y viva en la comunidad, comparta con nosotros, con nuestros niños, con nuestras familias, con nuestras mujeres, con los hombres, que comparta el trabajo que nosotros realizamos en la comunidad.
The first thing that she asked of me to be able to do this work, and doing this work, a requirement, was that I live in the community. I share the daily life. I get to know the people on a daily, real basis and see what's happening inside homes.
Otra cosa, este es uno de los trabajos de investigación que hemos realizado con Susan, es a partir del compartimiento desde el sector mestizo con nosotros, los Shuar, la nacionalidad Shuar. Entonces yo le decía a Susan que sea un trabajo real, y no un trabajo visto desde afuera como han hecho muchos otros investigadores. Simplemente han acudido, han estado un día, nos han visto, quizá muchas de las veces han tenido la dificultad de poder comunicarse. Entonces yo le decía a Susan, primero tú tienes que entrar a esta casa y que nuestra gente, sobre todo, te considere a ti como parte de esta familia, que vas a apoyar a esta propuesta de trabajo, que no te considere una persona extraña. Ese ha sido el trabajo fundamental.
So she asked me that not, we do the study in because there's this town, Wallakisa, and then there's Bonguisa, which is the Shuar community. Not that we do the research in Wallakisa, which is all mestizo, but to do the research in the homes of Shuar women and Shuar families, actually, so that people would be able to consider me as part of their lives and welcome into their lives, and not as someone who's from outside, which of course I am, but that so much of the research that's been done, the Shuar have been always studied. They've been objects of study, and she wanted to do research where Shuar are subjects of study.
Una vez realizado ese tema de trabajo, específicamente nosotros nos basamos en el tema ya de las metodologías. ¿Qué metodología vamos a utilizar para este trabajo? Entonces allí fue muy indispensable y fundamental realizar las entrevistas a las madres Shuar en diciembre en 2011. Realizamos las entrevistas individuales a 3 madres Shuar en casa. Acudimos, yo le decía a Susan, tenemos que irnos a las casas de estas madres de familia. Entonces fue esa una de las actividades. Otra también fue una entrevista que realizamos a las 4 madres que justamente estaban en un evento de reunión. Nosotros ingresamos, compartimos con ellas primero sin interrumpir las actividades que ellas tenían previsto. Entonces fue como un acercamiento ya de confianza y sobre todo la presencia desde mi parte a la gente, a las madres de familia les dio más confianza. Y lo otro también fue fundamental, el tema del idioma. Fue más accesible, las mujeres podían expresar libremente lo que ellas piensan sobre la educación intercultural bilingüe.
So to go along with what we were saying before about doing research that's authentic, it was very important to use the methodology of interviews. And if anybody's familiar, I think they took the form of testimonio, where we went into, particularly with the individual interviews with 3 different Shuar mothers, we spent a lot of time in their homes. So we were, and people, the interviews were very long, they were 3 hours long, where you'll see the results, but each person was speaking very much about their lives. And she was just saying how important it was to go in their homes and for people to have the confidence. And then we also did a group interview with 4 Shuar mothers, which was taking place at an event at the school at the Instituto. So we have both. And then the really important thing is the question of language. To be able to conduct the language in Shuar, the interviews in Shuar, which is the language which the mothers speak, to be able to have that kind of confidence. So Cornelia did the interviews. I was there listening. So in any case, that's really important. Really, really important. The language, the setting, and the nature of the way that we were letting people open up and speaking because of having the interviews in their own homes.
Las 2 preguntas fundamentales para este trabajo de investigación fue primera, ¿qué perspectivas tienen las madres Shuar sobre la educación intercultural bilingüe? Que ellas se expresen. La otra fue, ¿qué tipo de educación quieren las madres Shuar desde los Shuar y para los Shuar? Fueron 2 preguntas fundamentales que nosotros tuvimos que plantearles y decir que las madres expresen libremente en nuestro idioma. Porque yo le decía a Susan, le comenté una anécdota que yo la tuve en mi trabajo de investigación. Cuando yo acudo a una abuela, quiero hacer la entrevista, la pregunta, para ver cómo nosotros podemos fortalecer el idioma Shuar en un sector urbano. le pregunto a una abuela en el trabajo de investigación utilizando la entrevista. Y obviamente estaba acompañada con mi madre y la abuela me responde en idioma Shuar: ¿qué carajos me estás diciendo? No te entiendo nada. Y mi mamá me dice: pero por favor, hijita, Teresa es una abuela y ella habla Shuarchicha. No quería que ocurra esto con Susan, entonces era por eso lo fundamental, el idioma para nosotros.
So the questions were, the research questions were, what are the perspectives of Shuar, well, you can read that, Shuar mothers towards intercultural bilingual education? And what kind of education do they want from Shuar for Shuar? And it was so important to have a setting and create a confidence so that the mothers would feel that they could speak freely and openly. And she mentioned how so important it is to use the Shuar language because she was doing a study of a grandmother in Quito, because her research focused on Shuar families living in urban areas. And she asked a question in Spanish, and her mother was like, how can you use Spanish? That you're asking a question about what people want for themselves in Shuar language, and for Shuar culture, how can you use Spanish language? And she didn't want that same thing to happen.
En esta investigación para nosotros ha sido fundamental, sobre todo recoger los testimonios que dan nuestras madres. Y uno de los testimonios muy textuales de las madres, por ejemplo, lo que dice una madre de familia como Norma Tibira, dice: puedo decirles con propiedad que la educación de los Shuar es tan esencial. ¿Por qué? Porque la educación de los hispanos es repetitiva, es memorístico. En cambio, la educación de nosotros es más amplia. Distinta es nuestra convivencia diaria, la cotidianidad. Por eso siempre les digo a mis hijos que practiquen nuestra cultura, nuestra cosmovisión. También dice ¿qué han hecho? Dicen los mestizos. La educación de ellos es dentro de un círculo más o menos parecido a esto, como si fueran cerdos encerrados. En cambio, la educación de los Shuar era fuera del aula. Por ejemplo, allí tenemos las actividades que realizan en el campo, en la huerta, recogiendo la comida con mente fría, también con ayunos, con la fuerza del viento, de los truenos, de las cascadas. Recibían el poder de Arutan. De esta manera buscaban el poder de Arutan para ser fuertes. Esa era la verdadera educación de los Shuar, es decir, del buen vivir de los Shuar. Solo que hoy en día, y nos pareció muy importante esta cuestión, lo que dice Norma, solo que hoy en día decimos que esto es el cuerpo de Dios y vivimos comiendo hostia sin saber por qué. Es con el tema de la colonización de parte de los salesianos, nos metieron esto. Entonces recalca eso, dice: este tipo de educación estoy practicando para los pequeños de sus hijos y hasta los más grandes. Fueron testimonios que ella nos comentó. También tenemos otro de los testimonios de Leticia Nantil, otra madre de familia Shuar. Dice lo siguiente: como es de nuestro conocimiento, primeramente, nosotros como mundo Shuar somos nativos originarios aquí en América. Prácticamente dentro del Ecuador estamos en la zona oriental, en la zona amazónica. Y con la llegada de los españoles, nosotros hemos sido explotados, marginados. Hablando en la educación, no hemos tenido una educación profunda, una educación práctica. Es cierto también en algunos momentos que uno ha vivido una situación muy triste, muy lamentable también. Una de las cosas que yo puedo decir de mi experiencia vivida prácticamente la educación que yo he tenido de mis padres fue una educación en lo que ellos también lo tuvieron, pasaron por los internados los padres de Leticia. Como conocemos que toda cultura nace o ha vivido con su propia educación o con su propia religión o con su propio idioma o con su propio territorio, eso es para nosotros fundamental, para los Shuar. Hablando de la educación, voy a decirlo, lo que nosotros aquí prácticamente hablamos de nuestros padres, ellos son fruto de una educación evangelizadora con los salesianos, en la cual ellos son fruto de un internado y nosotros también como hijos. Entonces, lo que se ha notado y lo que he visto es nosotros hemos tenido una educación humillante, en donde nosotros no hemos tenido la facilidad de ir, de conocer, de hablar libremente. Entonces, lo que nos ha indignado al pueblo Shuar es la evangelización, la colonización. Nos han destruido nuestra educación propia que hemos tenido dentro del mundo Shuar. Entonces, nos han metido a través de esta colonización el miedo. Nos han metido también el complejo de inferioridad, hacernos decir que nosotros somos los pueblos y las nacionalidades menos que el blanco o menos que el mestizo. También por esa consecuencia yo hablo de mí, mis padres y mis hijos también hemos tenido este complejo de hablar en Shuar. En muchas familias entran estos complejos. Nuestros hijos no pueden hablar en Shuar, no quieren hablar en Shuar por complejo. Eso es prácticamente un complejo. La segunda parte dice, gracias a otros gobiernos que han valorado, nos dieron esa oportunidad de respetar y se dio la facilidad de crear una educación bilingüe que actualmente estamos viviendo. Hace 20 años diríamos que se creó la educación bilingüe nacional. Entonces, hay una parte muy fundamental que ella recalca, dice, entonces es así como se está fortaleciendo nuestra educación, prácticamente más para recuperar el idioma, recuperar las costumbres, aunque no todo, y por sobre todo recuperar el territorio. Y más personalmente recuperar la dignidad humana, que nosotros como personas humanas también tenemos los mismos derechos de conocer, de sentir, de hablar, de decir y tomar decisiones con nuestra propia conciencia y sintiendo. Entonces es eso lo que nosotros estamos haciendo y hemos venido luchando, hemos venido hablando ya de esto. Estos son dos testimonios muy fundamentales dentro de este trabajo de investigación con esas dos personas, dos mujeres, dos compañeras Shuar.
So this is the essence of the testimony of the two Shuar women about how they feel about education and what's happened what's happened in terms of the domination of the Silesians of Shuar culture.
Como resultados de este trabajo de investigación, acá tenemos el apoyo de la educación intercultural bilingüe. Dice, todos quieren que sus niños fueran educados en español y Shuar Chicham. Solo una madre de las que fueron entrevistadas no habla Shuar Chicham. Pero todos quieren más conocimiento, sabiduría y enseñanza auténtica en Shuar mediante sus prácticas culturales, la cacería, la pesca, actividades domésticas. Eso es fundamental en este trabajo de investigación.
Just that the English is there, but just saying that none of the mothers were saying we want less education or less presence of Shuar in the school, as some of the research was saying. They were saying what they want is a different kind of education. They want an education that's much more authentically Shuar, that involves learning about medicinal plants, about farming, about Shuar traditions. They don't want a Western, it's just using the Shuar language for a Western curriculum.
También hay otro punto que dice la preocupación de la dominación salesiana. La influencia salesiana domina los valores Shuar. Los textos escritos pesan más que la transmisión oral del conocimiento Shuar. Entonces, allí nosotros hemos visto muy importante este tema, ya que nosotros como Shuar hemos dejado de lado de practicar, de conservar los mitos tradicionales nuestros en la medida de que tenemos esta influencia, este pensamiento de los salesianos en tema de la religión.
That the big concern is about the influence of the Salesians over education, and that the influence of the missionary dominates over authentic Shuar values in every aspect. And one example of that is written texts tend to carry more, they do carry more weight than oral transmission of knowledge, and particularly like you see all these books at the Instituto, the mitos, the Shuar mitos, but even in the written form they're distorted. It was a Salesian priest who wrote them down, and in that they get distorted rather than living them out. So it's a lot about sort of codifying the past rather than valuing the living present.
También tenemos cuáles son los retos para la juventud Shuar de hoy en día. Allí nosotros hemos considerado fundamentalmente fortalecer y reivindicar la pérdida del idioma y la cultura. 1. 2. Es evitar la alienación cultural, pérdida de su identidad, la migración desde sus familias hacia las ciudades, adoptando las costumbres ajenas. No queremos que nuestra juventud deje de mantener su propia identidad, vaya a la ciudad, adopte otras costumbres. Lo que nosotros queremos y les hemos dicho es que la juventud Shuar tiene que tener su propia identidad, ser orgullosos de lo que nosotros somos. Y yo por eso les he dicho, inclusive recalco yo a la juventud, yo como mujer Shuar no tengo miedo, no tengo vergüenza, antes bien es un orgullo. Me siento muy digna de representar donde quiera que sea hablar Shuar Chicham en el mundo entero, porque esta soy yo y no soy aquella persona extraña como actúan mucha juventud alienada.
So that the big challenge, and this is a theme that I heard throughout my other study, everybody kept talking about, everyone, about this, that the Shuar youth are losing the language and culture. That Shuar youth are very attracted to life in the towns with the discotheques and so on, and are ashamed, and this is what the students I interviewed said too, they're ashamed of being Shuar, they're ashamed of dressing or eating typical Shuar food. They want to be like the mestizos. And that the big challenge is to strengthen and reclaim the loss of language, to prevent that, and to prevent cultural alienation. And that all the moving towards, when families or where youth are moving towards the cities, that there's a lot of cultural alienation. And Cornelia was saying that she feels extremely proud and dignified about being a Shuar woman, about speaking Shuar language, and so on, no matter where she is. All around the world, no matter where she is, that's who she is, and she's very proud of that, and that needs to be the model for the youth.
También hemos considerado fundamental cuál va a ser el papel de la juventud hacia el futuro. Nosotros decimos que los padres tienen que asegurar que sus niños tengan más oportunidades para poder practicar las actividades cotidianas, culturales, Shuar, nuestras, y sobre todo dando respeto a los mayores, porque son los mayores quienes tienen el verdadero conocimiento, son los mayores quienes realmente valoran nuestra propia identidad sin avergonzarse de que son menos que la otra persona extraña.
So that what the parents need to do in all of this is to play a really active role to prevent that, to assure that the youth have more opportunities to participate in Shuar daily practices, to encourage that and maintain that in the home, because that's where it needs to happen inside their homes. Can't rely on school to do that. And the parents need to ensure that the youth respect Shuar elders, and that means also particularly the knowledge that Shuar elders have, and to really respect that. And that's a big important role of the parents. And I just wanted to point out that the one mother who was not proficient in Shuar really regretted that and felt that she needed to learn and strengthen her own knowledge of Shuar to be able to serve as a model to her children.
vamos a presentar a continuación un video de, sobre todo, lo que nosotros queremos demostrar en este video es el discurso que nosotros damos, queremos que sea práctico, queremos que sea evidenciado y queremos que nuestros hijos también compartan lo que nuestros abuelos nos enseñan, sin avergonzarse. Este es un trabajo, un video que no fue realizado en la comunidad, fue realizado en la ciudad de Quito, en una ciudad capital. Entonces yo les decía a los niños, a los jóvenes, que no deben avergonzarse donde quiera que estén de ser lo que ellos son. Porque se da el caso de que la juventud migra a la ciudad y se vuelve alienada, deja de ser la persona que es, deja de ser parte de esta nacionalidad y empieza a adoptar otras costumbres ajenas. Entonces, lo que nosotros hemos querido es que esto sea un hecho real, una cuestión práctica donde nuestros hijos también compartan. Aquí está mi madre, la abuela, enseñándole a la hija, en este caso a mí. Entonces queremos también compartir con ustedes para que vean la experiencia que nosotros no dejamos de ser lo que no somos. Nosotros practicamos, al menos a mí personalmente, no me da vergüenza. Si tengo que hacer chicha en mi casa, donde quiera que sea, en la Amazonía, en la ciudad, si tengo que tomar mi bebida, si que tengo que actuar, hacer mis actividades culturales, donde quiera que sea, yo lo hago. Porque para mí eso es un honor.
So we're going to show a video which is an example of authentic Shuar education, which is in very much an apprenticeship model of fathers and sons hunting, and mothers and daughters farming or preparing chicha. Chicha is a drink. Central, we drink a lot of chicha in Huachipa. It's a absolutely core to Shuar culture and many cultures in the Amazon. And chicha is made from yucca, and it's the job of the woman to make the chicha. It's yucca, boiling yucca, and then mashing it, and then women chew it and spit it out. It ferments, and so it's incredibly important in Shuar culture. It's the heart of the culture. And so the mother teaches the daughter how to cultivate the yucca, how to prepare the chicha. And one thing that Cornelia was talking about is this video was made in Quito. It was made in the city. And her point is that you don't have to be in the heart of the jungle to maintain the culture. You can continue these practices no matter where you are. So we're going to show this. This is her mother, and teaching her.
Pushed it out of the way.
Oh, is that being better?
But I think I did something else that's not good.
Try again. It's hard to watch because I want some. Quiero la chicharita.
Ha sido un video que se ha presentado. Es un nampue, es una canción de felicidad. Las letras se dirigen hacia un esposo, augurando felicidad, armonía y sobre todo amor para que la bebida sea disfrutada como alimento. Una canción que la dedica la esposa hacia su marido en forma de coqueteo y atracción. Es una forma de enseñanza de la abuela hacia su hija para indicarle cómo la esposa debe actuar hacia su marido, cómo la esposa debe tener esa sensación de atracción hacia su marido y de enamoramiento. Entonces dice, muévete, coqueteale, hazle que eso suene y que él se interese solo por ti, no por otra mujer. Entonces es una forma de educación directa de la abuela hacia su hija.
So the song that Cornelia's mother was singing is called the Nampe, and it's a song of happiness, and the lyrics are, they're designed to, they're aimed towards a husband to predict happiness, harmony, and love, so that the drink is enjoyed as nourishment, that the chicha is enjoyed as nourishment, or whatever they're honoring. And if this particular song is for the wife to use to dedicate to the husband, to try to flirt. It's like a flirting and saying, like, don't look at another woman, look at me, and so on. So it's a form of attraction. And that's a very, very lively, very happy kind of song while making the chicha. And just to end it, we want to acknowledge Stephen Rubenstein. I want to acknowledge Cornelia Chumpi and her family. And now I know all of her children, her parents very well. And Ispedipsha, the Instituto Fulbright, and the USF Jesuit Foundation, and of course the Shuar Mothers.
Eso es todo por hoy.
I think we have some time. Yeah, we definitely have time for questions. Preguntas. Roberto tiene que enseñar nuestro trabajo.
Tengo que enseñar, pero le quiero dar muchísimas gracias por su presentación. Ha sido un tremendo honor tenerla aquí hoy y ojalá que se repita, porque su fuerza, su convicción se comunica de modo muy fuerte. Ha sido una experiencia muy, muy linda estar aquí para aprender y me tengo que ir a dar mi clase ahora, inspirado por usted. Que tenga un buen día.
Roberto said he has to leave and teach, but he just wanted to thank Cornelia so much for being here. It's been a great honor, and to hear her, to feel her conviction, her dedication, and her power. It's been a great honor. So he hopes that this is not the last time. Preguntas, questions, comments?
Thank you so much. This is really exciting work, and I think very exciting that it models research through alliance that challenges sort of colonial legacies of research in anthropology and other disciplines. So that's very exciting. Question I had is one of the testimonials spoke of the importance of maintaining land as key to maintaining culture, and the tension there, because there was also the example of people maintaining their culture in urban environments, which is of course also an important struggle, but just what those differences are. In other words, maintaining land and maintaining culture allow for a certain vitality and power of a people in terms of resisting assimilation at many levels, and yet maintaining identity within urban environments is also important once that process of dislocation has already occurred.
Yo traduzco mejor de español. No, you. Okay. And Es que él dijo, primeramente, felicitaciones por su trabajo, porque es un modelo de trabajo contra el modelo colonial. Y entonces, él es un buen ejemplo de una colonización descolonizada.
Descolonizada.
Sí, sí, es así. Y, pero su pregunta trata de el comentario de Leticia. Y ella dice que es muy importante de mantener el territorio, la cultura y el territorio. ¿Y cómo es posible de mantener la cultura afuera del territorio? Es una contradicción, ¿no? Tú hablaste de la importancia